Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. We are going to start today the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. We have taken this poem from the unit Responsibility and Duty, which teaches you that how much responsible and dutiful you need to be in every kind of situation in your life to be successful. Let's begin the introduction of the poet. The poet Rudyard was born in 1865 and he died in 1936. He was an English author, journalist, poet in the late 19th century and early 20th century. First of all, let me explain a grammatical structure here that would help you in the question of correction of error. If you have already done, but as a recalling activity, let me ask and explain. If we put article with author, an English author, and if again we use an English author, a journalist, a poet, what does it mean? And if we, as this sentence shows, if we skip article with journalist and poet, and if the second structure should be an English author, journalist and poet, what is the difference between both the sentences? If you recall, the answer is that if an article is used in the beginning of the sentence or with one quality of the person, for example, he was an English author, journalist and poet, it means that we are talking about one person. Means this one person, this Rudyard Kipling, was not only an author, he was a journalist and poet as well. And if separately an article is used with journalist, with the poet and with author as well, it means we are talking about three different people. Means an author is someone else, journalist and poet, these are two different people. Got it? So in this kind of structure, if such kind of structure comes in your exams and all the qualities are associated with one person, then you need to be careful that use the article, any kind of article, whether it is definite or indefinite, use that article only with the first quality of the person. Got it? Rudyard Kipling wrote about the tales and poems of British soldiers. Let me explain you one thing here, that whenever he talks about the tales of the British soldiers, this is the only controversial area so far his works is concerned. Means all the works that he has done, he has written, why does this area only regarding British Army and British soldiers become controversial? Because his only son John Kipling, also he was serving in British soldiers, British Army, and Kipling believes that British soldiers are the supreme one, are incomparable in the world, and that is why wherever he talks about British soldiers, this area becomes controversial. Otherwise, he was a very famous poet, and his famous work includes The Jungle Book and Just So Stories. That is why he was awarded with the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1907. So, for Rudyard Kipling's personality is concerned, he says that his own childhood can be described as an unhappy one, and he can never forget the years of humiliation. What is humiliation? Humiliation means disrespect and torture. He says that those years of childhood when he suffered from humiliation and torture can never be forgotten. But students, let me convey one thing to you, that though he suffered from the pains and pangs of the society and torture by society, but we never find any kind of gloominess, hopelessness, pessimism in his poetry. Then again, so for his introduction is concerned, one thing more happened that is very tragic. What was that? He had only one son, the only son, named John Kipling, and he was killed in 1915 in First World War while serving British Army. And when his son died, he was only 18 years of age. And you can imagine that the personality, the person whose own childhood was undergone through these kind of circumstances, then when he got married, then his only son got killed in army. What would be the condition psychologically, mentally, physically? What would be what kind of state would that person be suffering from? So, but instead of all these tragic or catastrophic facts, we do not find any kind of hopelessness in his poetry. Rather, he we can say that regained his status, his life. He revived his life through the motivation that he developed in his personality. Then the themes of the poem. There are some important themes in the poem. The first one is Stoicism. What is Stoicism? This is a philosophy. According to this philosophy, you need to develop patience in each and every kind of situation you are in, the specifically critical moments of your life. And what is, according to this philosophy, the one who believes in this philosophy, he is called Stoic. And the Stoic believes that a person should have wisdom, or should wisely deal with the situation, should have temperaments, should not lose temperament, should not be impatient, should have control over the emotions, because when the person develops patience and acts wisely in critical moments, then justice, the Stoic believes that justice will prevail in his life by God. The justice will come there, and what he only needs to develop courage. So these four principles are there that a Stoic believes to develop in life to be successful. And Rudyard Kipling believed in this philosophy. That is why he had developed strong personality. Then the parent-child relationship is an important theme, that it becomes the responsibility of the parents to guide, to advise the children how to deal with the difficult time, or how to deal with the people, which are those traits or characteristics or moral values or capabilities that a child, from his childhood, he needs to develop in his personality so that when he becomes a grown up man, he becomes mature, he needs to develop mature personality as well in his adulthood. This was the basic theme that becomes the responsibility of the parents to make the child a responsible character in the society. Then the next theme is advice and guidance. It means that again it becomes not only the responsibility of the parents but of every elderly person to advise and guide the children or the younger ones. Similarly, the poet tries to not only give pieces of advice and guidance to the son, but to everyone. There are some pieces of advice and the guidance for everyone to be a good citizen by developing the moral traits or the morality, those characteristics. So the next theme is virtuous living. According to the poet, life is really very much precious, and we need to have a virtuous life. We need to lead a pious life. You need to be a noble man in your life. That is the real taste of your life. That is a life full of worth. This is called the virtuous living, because an aimless life or a life without targets, without achievements, without nobility is of no use. This is another important theme. And the last one is that the poet wants again his son and everyone to develop balance in life, in every field of life, to have patience, persistence and willpower and courage to be successful. So these are some of the important themes. You can have a separate question of 6 marks on the theme. Any kind of question if comes, you can add the theme in that question. So very much carefully prepare these themes, specifically parent-child relationship, advice and guidance, virtuous living, and by the development of these traits and some of the traits that the poet will be discussing in the poem, make separate themes on these topics. Then so you would be able to attempt short questions as well. Then the next is that what is the tone of the poem? Tone again means that what kind of mood the poet is having, or what is the mood of the poem. The poem is quite motivational and you can say encouraging as well. As the poet been suffering throughout his life since his childhood, he himself developed or he himself got motivated in his life, and he wants this motivation in us as well, in the readers, in his son as well, to have successful life. Then the tone of the poem is advisory as well. Advisory means that that's again some pieces of advice are there in the in each and every line, and due to these pieces of advice and guidance, the poem is called didactic. You can be asked, is the poem didactic? Yes, it is. Didactic means a poem in which the meaningful message is there, that is full of a complete comprehensive message. Then the tone of the poem of the poet is quite optimistic as well. Optimistic means to the being hopeful. Hopefulness is there. The hopelessness is not there in the poem. The poet is quite hopeful, because he believes that when a person gets hopeless, then he cannot restart his life, cannot regain the lost status in his life. That is why through optimism, the poet is putting emphasis, or we can say that the poem is didactic and emphatic. Emphatic means having emphasis. The poet is putting emphasis on some of the traits to be developed in the personalities, and that is why it is didactic and emphatic. Then the rhyme scheme of the poem. So far, the first stanza is concerned, the rhyming scheme of the first stanza is quite different than the rhyme scheme of second, third, and fourth stanza. Got it? And what is the reason that the second, third, and fourth stanzas are having the same rhyming scheme? This shows that there is a conversational basically style, or consistency is there in the rhyming scheme, and consistency in the second, third, and fourth stanza shows that the personality traits and the situations, the challenges, the hardships that the poet is discussing in the poem, a man should try to constantly, with consistency, with having persistence or tolerance, a man should face those challenges. And why is the rhyming scheme of fourth stanza different? Because fourth stanza is a kind of setting of the poem, when the poet starts giving a kind of background before he moves towards the tone, motivational and encouraging tone and advisory tone of the poem. So it's a really beautiful poem. Whenever you feel dejected and gloomy, you can go for the reading of the poem to have some motivation. So, significance of the title. What is the significance of the title If? If basically is full of conditionals. This poem is full of conditionals. You have already done grammatical structure if. Conditions means that there are so many you can say rules, there are so many bases, that conditions that the poet has set, that if a person would develop this habit, if a person will move in this way, if a person is going to face the challenges in this way, means throughout the poem if is there, this condition is there. And this is the significance, that if we will put stress, or if we will focus on if clause given in the poem, then we will be able to develop all those characteristics that the poet wants us to have. So the significance is that the poet wants some standard, some ideals of manhood, or some ideals, or some you can say that some characteristics or some standard of morality he wants us to develop, or you can say that some traits of personality, some capabilities. And the poet says that life is should be worth living, is very much precious. So every person, every successful full person must have a standard in his life, and according to that standard, or which is that standard, he talks about the standard of morality specifically. He is not talking about having luxuries in your life, or being rich in your life, or being having or enjoying your status. He is not talking about this artificial or this worldly status. The status, the standard of morality, the ideals of morality, he wants everyone to develop this one, to have a successful and meaningful life to lead. So this is the significance, girls. You can have a separate question as well on the title. So I have explained in detail because if 2 or 4 marks question comes, you must be able to clarify it properly, that what is the significance of the title, because the title of the poem is very much attractive, is very much important. It needs a complete comprehensive explanation, so understand it properly. Then the girls, we are going to start towards the reading and explanation of the poem, starting from stanza number 1. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, you can't trust if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not tired by waiting or being lied about you, don't deal in lies or being hated. Don't give way to hating. So the poet ends the stanza, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. So the explanation of the first line, let me start it. If you can keep your head. Again, first of all, you have observed in the first stanza that repetition of if is there, and grammatically repetition of the beginning first word or first phrase in the beginning is called anaphora. Anaphora is it is used, this repetition of the word in the beginning of the structure is used as a to put emphasis, and here it is used as a kind of warning, or as an advice it is used. The poet shares some pieces of advice. So if grammatically is anaphora here. Secondly, you. Second person is used here in all the poem. It can be that the poet is talking about is talking to his son, or a father is talking to his son. How can we guess? We can guess it by the end of the poem. It is mentioned that he is having a conversation with his son. But this poem, or the purpose of the poet, is not only to give advice or guidance to his son, but it is basically, it can be that a person, any person or a poet is talking to the readers. This is the beauty of the poem, that it is having a universality of the message. Universality means that after reading the poem, it seems that the poem is written for everyone in the world. So this is the universality of the message. Girls, I would like to tell you one thing here, that all the expressions that I am using here, keep in your mind. You can have a question with these expressions as well. Means you can also be asked, because this poem is a didactic. Didactic means is having a meaningful message. So you can be asked that does this poem have universality of the message, or the message of the poem is universal or not? So yes, it is universal, means for all the people in the universe. It seems that it is for everyone. Got it? So now what does the poet say? If you can keep your head. Keeping your head is an idiom. So this is also important for your question. Idioms, you can prepare one idiom from here. Keeping head means being calm, being cool in the situations, in critical situations. Head grammatically is used as a synecdoche. You have done in your previous lecture the figures of speech. What is synecdoche? When a part is used and the whole is understood. or when the whole is mentioned, the part is understood. Here, only one part of the body is mentioned, and this one part, keep your head, it means that it is a synecdoche. One part is mentioned, and the whole personality is understood. It means that the poet wants us to have patience in your personality. In overall, your personality should be a cool one, should have patience, or you should be called a patient kind of personality, a calm, cool personality. So this is synecdoche grammatically. Let me explain one thing here, girls, that I have used two colors. One, red, would be representing the grammatical structures, and purple color would be the explanation of the lines, explanation of the you can say of the poem and the poetry. So be careful specifically in understanding the grammatical structures. So the poet says, if you can keep your head when all about you, it means that when everyone is talking against you, when everyone is not in favor of you, what is your role? You need to be calm. Keep your head calm and cool. So the moral value of patience is demanded by the poet to develop. When all about you are losing theirs possessive pronoun, it means when everyone is losing his temperament. Obviously, when a person loses temperaments, then he talks against you, or then he develops the habit of going against you all the time. Then you should be calm in that situation and blaming it on you. And again, the same thing, that blaming it means that you need to be, basically the poet wants to say that you need to be ready to face the reactions and the responses of the people, because obviously it is the duty of the people, the people, they believe that it is their duty to blame others. So the poet says that you only need to have patience. Then the next poet says, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. Here again, if structure in these lines shows that the life is full of challenges for us, and if poet wants, if you have trust in your abilities, trusting yourself means the poet wants us to have self-confidence. Faith is necessary in your capabilities, in your abilities to have. When every person is doubtful of your qualities, that sometimes it happens that the other person feels that you would be not able to complete this task, you would not be able to go ahead in future. They have some doubts regarding your characteristics and on your abilities. So the poet says that make allowance for their doubting too. Make is an imperative structure. It means the poet is giving an order to you, to us, that let them doubt, let them think whatever they are, allow them whatever they are feeling, they are thinking, they are assuming regarding you. Let them do. It means that the poet wants us to listen to the other's opinion as well. We should listen to others' opinion as well, and we only need to just listen and pass it on. We should not put an ear to. Putting an ear to, I am using an idiom here. Putting an ear to means that you should not be, or you should not focus on whatever they are talking about. Let them discuss. What is important here? Which moral value? Developing self confidence, having faith in your personality traits is important that the poet wants us to have. Then the poet says, if you can wait and not tired by waiting. This is something very difficult for everyone to wait. Again, you can observe that you is there. Observe, this is the first stanza, you here. Again, second person you here. It means that the poet is talking not only to his son, it can be we the reader as well. If structure here, if structure here. So the underlying things you need to be careful regarding those. Properly understand the grammatical structures, and then in the next line the poet says, if you can wait and not tired by waiting. So again, this is very much important for everyone to develop patience. Waiting means that to develop patience in every kind of situation, and we should not get tired by waiting. Means that sometimes it happens that to achieve something in your life you need to be patient, because everything comes to your way on a specific time that is prescribed or that is written in your destiny. So the poet wants us that you need to wait for the things to come in your life. Or he says that or being lied about you, don't deal in lies. Sometimes it happens that people go against you, they lie about you, or what was the truth, they go against that. The poet wants us, if they are lying, don't deal in lies. Don't, again look here, imperative structure is used, don't. And if you go back, you would also observe make is here, means the poet is basically using this don't to make us realize by the use of imperative structure that this is important for everyone to develop. That this, again look here, don't and don't is used, imperative structure, to put emphasis on the conduct. That is why this emphasis, due to this emphasis, the poem is called didactic poem, having a message in it. The poet says that you should not deal in lies, means that you should not become yourself a liar. It is the poet wants us to develop the ethical value, the moral value, that you should be truthful, you should not be a liar like others. This is the thing that he wants to wait. A truth will reveal one on the specific, on the proper time. Or being hated, and if people hate you, don't give way to hating. Again, another moral value of forgiveness is stressed here. You should forgive them. You should not again go against them. You should not hate or you should not develop hatred towards them. Again, the poet wants us to be truthful. The poet wants us to be to develop forgiveness, and these are to have patience, to wait for the things, to wait for the right time. These are the things that he wants us to develop. Then the last one is really very much impressive, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. Looking too good, what does it mean? That sometimes it happens that when you develop the traits that the poet has mentioned, patience, courage, stamina, forgiveness, truthfulness, or there are so many. When you develop these characteristics, you should not present yourself this look too good does not means that he is making you feel that you are you have become your or you developed the habit of being pride or being proud over your personality traits. He does not want us to develop this one. He wants us to not present yourself. Show off means that this is not a negative expression. He wants us to not to talk too wise, means we need to be humble, and we should not present ourselves as a good personality, as a complete good personality towards people, just because when the people they understand that you really have all the ethical values and you really have the patience, then obviously they will go against you even then. So the poet wants us to be humble only, nor talk too wise, means don't act in front of the people too wisely, with wisdom, with sagacity. Be humble in every situation, because the people will never accept it. The people will never like you to be wise or develop wisdom. They cannot bear in any kind of personality traits in your personality to have. They don't want to see you being a good person. So it means overall the poet wants to say that you must have all the ethical values, moral values, but keep yourself or present yourself in front of the people in such a way that the people may not guess that you are very much wise person. Be humble and present yourself as a common person, so that people may not go against you, because when you would have all the personality traits, when you will have a complete or composed kind of personality, even the people will not accept it. The people will again develop hatred against you. They will go against you. So a beautiful ending of the first stanza. I want girls, every one of you, to develop these personality traits as well, and to specifically observe the last line and present yourself according to this formula that the poet has given. So today's assignment that I want to give you is that from this stanza, make some questions yourself, because on the one hand any theme can be given to you, or the 6 marks, the theme for 6 marks would be given to you, or any kind of question if comes, you can add the theme of 6 marks, or the length should be of at least it should be according to the marks, 6 marks. So you can add in that answer your theme, and secondly you can have short questions of 2 or 4 marks. So this is your assignment for today, that make at least 3 to 4 questions from this stanza and write the answers as well, and send to your respective teachers. Then your attendance will be marked. In this way you would be able to understand the theme properly, or because there are some themes that this stanza carries, or some themes are included here. So you can add those structures, you can add those information, you can add those lines as well, the important or some relevant lines with the themes. So if you have some queries you can ask, and 3 to 4 questions you are supposed to make and give the answers as well, provide the answers as well, and send to your respective teachers. Then they will be marked, because the next we are having 3 more stanzas in the poem, and you may not feel any kind of difficulty in understanding. And hopefully you have understood that today we have done the theme of patience, the theme of forgiveness, you can say, or some ethical values. You can be asked this question as well, that which are the ethical values or moral values that the poet talks about in first stanza. In this way, separately, the poet can also ask, or you can have any question regarding grammar as well, that grammatically what is the significance of the structures that the poet has used, or the poet has conveyed his message through some grammatical elements. Which are those? So each and every aspect you do need to deal with it. Till then, Allah Hafiz, and